I know what you've all been thinking. After the groundbreaking success of Board Games and Chips' inaugural video, what will we be reviewing next? Will it be the best Monopoly replacement you'll ever need in Chinatown? Will it be the engine builder that you all should know about, Steampunk Rally? Will it be something fun and light like Survive? No. We're doing Risk again. We're doing Risk again. We're doing Risk again. Are you sure that we should be doing? Let's get the housekeeping out of the way. This isn't going to be a how to play Risk video. Instead, we're going to be looking at two variants of Risk and how they're different to classic Risk as well as each other. If you've not played Risk before, I recommend you checking out our review on how to play Risk video. This will give you the context to understand the comparison that we made ahead. But for now, let's cross to Future Boy to review Risk 2210 AD. When's he getting here? Welcome to the year 2210, where the moon and the seas have been colonised and war is now fought with mechs. The box art, it's exciting with the tease of playing Risk in a future setting, but not all is well in this heavy, heavy box. I realise that my pants aren't very science fiction-y, but I don't own any shiny shorts. Risk 2210 AD has the same land map as a classic Risk board. However, they've renamed some of the territories to give it more of a future setting. But they've also added 5 water colonies to the board, totaling in 13 extra territories that you need to control. On top of this, there's 14 additional territories on the moon board, which you can access by launching your troops into space. And this board, look at it. It's like they gave an 8-year-old a box of crayons and said draw a map of the world, without any thought of balance or region defense. Now, the total number of territories is slightly reduced at setup by randomly selecting 4 land territories to be marked as devastated. However, this still leaves you with an extra 23 territories to control over a standard Risk map, with no extra troops given to you at startup. This board increase causes some problems. Even on turn 1, when you receive your reinforcements, which is not likely to be a lot, you just don't have the army to hold all these additional spaces. Now, Risk 2210 gets around this by having you start only occupying the land territories. But if you're not expanding into all these additional territories, you're falling behind and you're missing out on the extra bonuses when you next reinforce. However, expanding causes the problem of thinning out your troops. Most of the time you only have 2 or even 1 if you're greedy on your border, which means border breaks are a common practice and you'll have very few troops to do anything about it. On top of the water colonies, they also add more borders to the map, meaning you need more troops to hold each region. See, orange here is adding 1, 2, 3 more borders that didn't exist in classic Risk. And look at these pieces. Mechs should have been cool, but it's like they went for the cheapest production they could with these fumbling, unthoughtful designs. And look at this one, just ick. The next change 2210 brings to the table is a bidding mechanic, using these energy tokens as currency, at which you only start off with 3. At the end of each round, a secret bid is made by all players, with those who spend the most selecting when their turn will occur in that round. This opens up a few possibilities. If you're last in one round and then bid high and become first in the following round, it's possible to have 2 turns in a row, meaning anything that you grabbed in the previous turn you automatically held onto and you gain the bonus. It's also possible to have a bad turn order. If you're first in one round and then you're last in the following round, it means everybody else has got to have 2 turns before you have your second turn, meaning you've suffered greatly and had no chance to defend yourself. In my view, this messes with the balance of Risk. Players have unknown knowledge about when their next turn will be, as well as who will have a turn in the meantime. This can lead to outcomes the player can't foresee, and thus takes control away from the player. I don't know why we haven't thought of this shot before. Anyway, next up is the commanders. They can be purchased for 3 energy each, which places another demand on your already small supply of energy. The types of commanders that you can get are the diplomat, the naval commander, the land commander, the space commander, and the nuclear commander. Now, each one of these commanders allows you to roll a D8 in certain circumstances, replacing the D6 that you would normally roll. On top of that, you cannot battle in or out of water colonies unless you've got a naval commander on the board somewhere, and the same for the lunar colonies, a space commander is required. And while the offer of rolling a D8 is tempting, It'll win you a few battles, but it won't turn the tide. And if you lose that commander, it's going to cost 3 more energy to replace them. The next structural change is the introduction of the 5-turn limit. Each round of play is just having 1 turn equaling 1 game year. And at the conclusion of 5 turns, the game's over. So this only gives you 5 turns to expand and hold more regions to gain more troops and energy. Only 5 turns to conquer the water and the space colonies, and only 5 turns to figure out where's the best place you should be spending your energy. While the turn limit means that risk doesn't overstay its welcome.
You sure? Like, I'm not busy, like...
No, we're fine.
We could play another game.
No, it's been good.
A longer game, I could stay.
It's getting late.
All
Go
right.
to bed. Yeah,
All right.
see ya. Yeah, it does cut short the process of dominating the board. You just add up points at the end and go, well, I've got a few more points than you have because I didn't have as many bad rolls as you did. It's very hollow and not a satisfying ending to the game. Now you could house rule the 5-turn limit away, but without secret mission cards, it's unclear when the game should end. Hello, it's Tim here in the edit. I got to this point in the video and realised I hadn't actually said anything nice about 2210 AD, and I don't think it's a fair reflection of my thoughts on the game. I actually think this game is a classic example of a missed opportunity. There's some really good ideas here in the game, it just doesn't all hang together. The sea cities, for example, I think they're great. They add more complexity to the game, more borders, and give you a whole different board state to think about in terms of how you hold and move through. I think if the game just gave you a lot more troops to be able to manage those extra territories, then all those problems would disappear and that'd be great. The moon board, on the other hand, I think it's a nightmare. It's just one big solid landmass. It has no choke points like you would have on the Earth because of the oceans. I think we should just throw it away. There's no real logical way to move through it and hold it, and it's just a distraction from the main board, so that should have went. I think instead it would have been nice to have some space cities that connect directly to specific locations around the map, like having a space elevator type thing. This would give you key locations to fight over, and would give you some different paths to go up to space, jump cities, and come back down again. I also think the commanders should have been rejiggered. They should have had some uniqueness to them rather than them all feeling the same. I think if the water commander had some mechanic where he could sink troops and then there was some way for your opponent to salvage those troops at a cost, that would give them something unique that only they could do. Similarly, if the space commander could only bombard from the space cities down into the linking cities, that would be unique to them. And maybe the nuclear commander could only devastate other lands, taking those land masses out of the game and changing the board state as you move through the game. I think all these changes would have made a game that I would much more like to play and would feel more like I think what they were going for. Anyway, we'll go back to the video now and get my last thoughts on the cards. So yeah, thanks. Bye. Lastly, for differences between 2210 and Classic Risk are these command cards. There's one deck for each commander. They cost 1 energy each, and you can play them on your turn, or you can also play them on your opponent's turn in response to something that they do. These cards are mostly of the flavour of add extra units at the start of your turn, or add extra units when attacked, with one of each deck allowing you to blow up half of an invading troops, and a handful that dole out energy under certain circumstances. Now this adds another element to the game. Now you might like surprises, but for the most part it's going to be, okay, I'm going to attack here. I've thought it out, I've planned it, and based on what I can see on the board, this is going to be a good move. And then your opponent will go, hang on, and play a card, and now your plan's impossible. Don't you? Don't you? To me, this removes the careful planning of placing units to leave behind and fortify, as well as the balance of what you attack with. This is because the board state is now so much harder to read. All the players around the table are holding these hands of cards which are battle changing. This unknown element isn't present in a classic game of Risk, and adding them in here just leads to a game you can't plan for. In fact, just attacks of one are routinely routed, which is incredibly frustrating because you don't have that many troops to start with. Where's that noise coming from? By summon GodStorm, the game of God's domain over its earthly realm, with epic battles of God versus God. So Future Boy's been trying to sell you on Risk 2210 AD. How does GodStorm stack up? Well, it's got 42 territories, so balance-wise we're off to a good start. You're not having to thin out your troops. It's got plague lands, which are similar to 2210's nuclear devastated regions, but you can move through them. Just a lot of people die. And it has the random setup method rather than the claim method, which in this boy's opinion is a lot better. Yeah, there's no way this is staying on the whole review. That's better. Now, GodStorm has Atlantis. It's a 4 territory region, but it has higher troop generation. However, when a certain card is played, it sinks, and all of its occupying forces go with it. This makes the board a little bit smaller, which forces a little bit more friction, but it's not a surprise like 2210 AD can be, because everyone knows that it will happen at some point. You've just got to weigh up the risks about how long you occupy it for, if you occupy it at all. Going to have to pick all them up now. GodStorm also has the Underworld board. It's a bit like the Moon board in 2210 AD, however only your dead troops can go here. There is a mechanism for resurrecting troops, and holding some altars in here does help a little bit, but for the most part it's not, oh my god, I need to be watching this and the main board, otherwise it's going to end my day. And more just having a little bit of fun with the dearly departed Moon. GodStorm has faith tokens, just like 2210 has energy tokens, and brings in the same bidding mechanism to turn on, and the problems that creates. It also has the same 5-turn structure, with you counting up points at the end and seeing who wins. But GodStorm has an ace up its sleeve. It's these gods and these beefy pieces you get to have when you summon them. Now you might be saying, isn't this just the same as the commanders in 2210? Well, yes, but no, let me explain. The theming here is so much better. In 2210, it's like, well, this is a moon commander. He's the same as a land commander and a water commander. He's just on the moon this time. Each one of these gods has its own flavor and its own labors you can do to get miracle cards. First is the god of death. When present in a battle, all opposing armies killed do not go to the underworld, limiting the enemy player's amount of troops he can resurrect back onto the board. If you control some altar tiles in the underworld at turn's end, the God of Death rewards you with a miracle card. These are expensive but devastating cards. The God of Magic. When present, you re-roll all ones. If you roll 3 of the same number while battling, you gain a God of Magic miracle card. Relics that stay in play the whole game, giving you buffs that others don't have. The God of Sky gains an extra dice in any God v God war. And when a god is defeated, you gain a miracle card providing defensive cards on your opponent's turn. That was too many dices. The God of War. When present in battles, you win ties, shifting the probabilities in your favour. If you conquer 3 or more territories in a turn, the God of War rewards you with a miracle card that are cheap and all-purpose. And on top of that, look how much nicer the pieces are in GodStorm. And how formidable the gods look next to their own army, as opposed to the commanders in 2210. And these elephants. Who doesn't love these elephants? And the colours that they all are. Just chef's kiss. Also, unlike 2210, where if 2 commanders square off, it's just a replacement D8 rolls, in GodStorm, if 2 or more gods battle, it triggers a God's War, and this occurs before the main fight. Now, this is a high-stakes roll, because if you lose your god, you lose all the effects that come with them. So both players will roll 3d6s, plus on the number of troops they have at their location, and plus on any effects they might gain from cards and relics. So you can bring along some more troops to try and swing the odds in your favour, but these are still epic rolls that bring really tense moments to the game. So why is GodStorm's theme better? Well, each god has a theme that ties to its power or domain, and how it acts and how it rewards you. So rather than every hero unit being read as, well, they give me a D8 and they all blur together, each god is unique and special and has its own tactics. The miracle cards have their own theme as well. So as your opponent collects them, you've got some idea to predict the options that are in front of him. He's only got death cards and no faith tokens. You probably can't use them. He's got a heap of sky cards. This will hurt me when I attack him. Maybe I'll attack someone else this turn and let someone else fall into that trap. And while the miracle cards can still be a surprise, you're armed with some knowledge about the style of cards that can be played on you. Unlike the commander cards where they're all mostly the same and therefore anything can happen to you. And this board is so much nicer. Rather than the Techno Dream fueled of bright colours for 2210 AD, these sepia tones just what is needed. Ooh, look at me, my theme is so good. Is that a motherboard you're holding? No. Is that a bed sheet you're wearing? Yes, my theme is more superior to yours. Well, I have bidding, devastated lands, and commanders. I have plagues, bidding, and gods. Gods being way cooler. Doesn't bidding give you the same turn order problem? Doesn't that give you the same bidding order problem? I can buy commanders with energy. Well, I can buy miracle cards with faith, but I can also do labors and be rewarded by my gods, which is much more thematic. Doesn't this give you the same surprise card issue? Doesn't that give you the same surprise card issue? You can live in domed underworld cities with me and go to the moon. That doesn't actually add anything to the game. GodStorm's got a continent that sinks into the sea under your feet, which is way more thematic. And it's just funny when it's not happening to you. I've got the moon board. I've got an underworld board. Doesn't that give you the same issue of multi-board and dividing your focus? You don't have a stupid one-liner for that? What was that? Nothing. Wait, are we the same game? No. You're in the future and I'm in the past. Yeah, but besides the Code of Paint theme, aren't we the same game underneath? Do you have commanders and I have gods? Uh, so does anything we just did matter? Does anything matter? Does life matter? Am I just a speck, an infinite void? You sure you're okay? Give me some of those checks. So what can we conclude? Yes, these two games do share a lot of the same DNA. If you're not put off by having too many territories to control and the multi-focus between land, water, and space, then you might like 2210 AD. If you're really into mechs, then this theme might carry over the line and help you overlook the fact that the commanders all feel a bit the same and the cards are all about screwing your day. However, if you're like me, the board of GodStorm will call to you. The beefier pieces, the gods, the god wars, the cards which have a flavour that help you predict will see you much more likely to get this off the shelf. The Underworld board is more manageable as well, and a lot less of a distracting board that can end your day, which can't be said of the Moon board. Overall, they both suffer from the same problems. However, GodStorm makes up for it more, with a better theme, better production, and cooler hero units. I wouldn't play a game of Risk 2210 AD, but if you ask to play GodStorm, I might just say yes. So how do we end it? I guess we say the line. Say the line. I don't want to. Say it. Say it. And remember, do the pointy thing. And remember, chips go with everything.